You're listening to the podcast Coffee with Mike and Julie, Libertarians Talk Psychology. This is current commentary from an MBA businessman and a PhD psychologist.
Look what they done to my soul.
Today I want to do something different. We've talked about a fun podcast between the two of us based on movie clips from our past. So we have picked out 4 movie clips, and the game here that we're playing is to watch the movie clip and then just make some sort of commentary about it. Yeah?
So I want to add to what you're saying by making sure our audience knows that humor is humor because it usually discloses self-deception. And so that's what makes things funny, is that there's a psychological projection going on that is usually hidden from ourselves. So that's why humor, is because of the element of self-deception.
I like that. And I always kind of assumed that humor had to be edgy, almost inappropriate, or it wasn't funny. But
well, that's aggressive humor. That's one type of projection.
Okay, I see.
The person slipping on the banana peel, why is that funny? It's actually not funny to me, but it's funny because of the aggressiveness. We are aggressive, but the key that I think the clips you've picked out for us today are cool and funny because of really human self-deception.
Okay.
And that's what makes these hilarious in my view. They're just great clips.
Okay, so this first one is from Scary Movie 4, and it's about the car lock.
Oh, that's Scary Movie. I was wondering which.
Scary Movie.
Yeah, where the aliens are killing people.
That's right.
So the aliens are killing people, and this guy is driving out of the city to get his kids.
He's offering a ride to a guy.
He's offering a ride to a guy.
Okay.
Now wait for me to...
Still locked.
Why are you reaching for the handle at the same time?
What do you mean reach for at the same time?
On 3.
You counting now?
1, 2, 3. Open the door.
Okay, on 3.
1,
2,
3. Don't do that. Now you're
Still
just trying to
locked.
annoy me. I'm going on 3. 1, 2.
Don't count when I count. I have a problem with that.
What's the matter
Turn
with
your
you?
mouth sideways. If you look at me when you're counting, I'll lose count.
Were you crazy? 1, 2,
2,
3.
3.
Don't do it at the same time.
You said 3.
You go on 4.
4.
Can you count?
So on your 3 or on my 4?
There's only 1 3.
I'm trying to get in the car.
Well, then you do it on 4. I count
You
to 3.
said 3. So wait. So are you doing it on 3? Or am I doing it on 2?
Christ's sake.
I
If
heard
the count
3.
is 3.
I know
you have
3.
to do it on 4.
Now it's 4.
Why would you go on 4?
You gave me 4 at first, and you
Yeah,
stole
but I
my
have to
4.
count to 3
you
first.
Stole
If
my
you just
4,
let me
Tom.
say 3.
I gotta wait on you now, huh? You want the
After
black
I
man
say
to wait
3,
again?
you can do
Huh?
whatever you want.
Well, that's what I've been doing the whole time.
Why would you do that? Why would you reach for it when I say 3? That's what all this is about.
Okay, do I still go on 4?
Listen, when I say 3, you don't have to worry about 4. You got all the time in the world. You can go home, you can watch television and come back, and then open the door.
Fine.
1.
No 1. I'm out. No, thank you. Or I'll take the next one. Does that work for you? Jesus.
Attitude.
Seriously? I'd rather be dead.
So, of course, you and I think this is hilarious. We have wrestled with car locks. Between the two of us, we've wrestled many times.
They take it to the extreme. I saw a comic do this about showing how his wife, he's unlocking it, she's locking it, and they do this in this clip so well.
They do it well, and then they do the interpersonal, getting angry at each other and not being able to communicate. They do that particularly well. So,
and the guy says, "I'd rather die."
You and I have done that many times too.
And the guy says, "I'd rather be dead." Zap.
and I can identify with that frustration being so much that you have this temporary thought, I'd rather be dead than have to put up with this frustration.
Yeah, I don't identify that. But so why is that important? I'm stretching it, but that they're trying to solve a problem. They both want to solve the problem. The cognitive ability to solve the problem, and of course this is humor, they can't communicate well enough to follow each other's plan. They escalate.
I'm sorry. I just think back to the video, and it's just so damn funny.
It is funny, but I want to point out the psychology of why that's funny. So then they escalate, and of course, then generally when you escalate, you switch to system one thinking. So it becomes more. Your thinking becomes more truncated. I mean, this is
what is system one?
System 1 and 2, that's Kahneman's System 1 and 2. System 1 is fast think, System 2 is slow think, where you engage the slow processing of information. The question we're talking about is what makes it so funny is that they are displaying human behavior that composes a lot of decision making. So they go from a simple task. The kids in the back are they rolling their eyes?
Yeah.
I don't know if that's in the video, but the kids are like, what the hell is like going on with these two adults? But they go from a simple task to an escalating inability to process simple information, and then they give up. So this is human decision-making characterized here. Of course, it is the extreme. And this is what humor does. It takes something that's normal for a lot of people. I mean, most of us have experienced that in one or two steps.
Yeah.
Like you go to unlock the car, and when you... Is this even the case anymore? When you go to open the door, it locks automatically.
I don't even know if cars do that.
I don't remember. I haven't had that experience in a long time. It's kind of an old idea, but it was that if you try to open it, it locks automatically if it's, not synchronized to the person who is opening the door.
I don't know.
Unlocking it.
Well, anyway, it's funny as hell.
Yeah.
But I like your point that once those emotions get involved or that fast thinking, once that gets involved, it can interfere with even the most simple solutions to a problem.
Well, I may not be right about this, but the fast think is with us all day long.
Yeah.
We do all kinds of decision making in fast think, and we don't have to have escalating emotions in order to be in fast think.
I see.
Fast think is just economical.
Okay.
It's the shorthand version of making decisions. But what the clip shows is the escalating area of emotional intervention into trying to solve a decision. Neither of them are calm. They start out, and then they take sides. I mean, they don't listen to each other. So that's what makes it funny.
Okay. So the next one.
Many presents have been coming for your birthday.
German has the only presents I want. Guns! Guns, so that the name of El Guapo will be hanging on everyone's lips.
He will be here, Guapo. But I think you would like your other presents, too. I have put many beautiful piñatas in the storeroom, each of them filled with little surprises.
Many piñatas?
Oh, yes, many.
Would you say I have a plethora of piñatas?
A what?
A plethora.
Oh, yes. You have a plethora.
Jefe, what is a plethora?
Why, Guapo?
Well, you told me I have a plethora. And I just would like to know if you know what a plethora is. I would not like to think that a person would tell someone he has a plethora and find out that that person has no idea what it means to have a plethora.
Forgive me, Guapo. I know that I, Jefe, do not have your superior intellect and education. But could it be that once again, you are angry at something else and are looking to take it out on me?
Like what, Jefe?
Could it be because you are turning 40 today?
No.
So, Julie, what is a plethora?
Are you asking me for the definition of a plethora? It's,
well,
I think of it's a lot of something. I don't know what plethora means either. This is brilliant dialogue. What is this in Three Amigos?
I think I don't even know what movie it is.
Oh, well, anyway, I think but I remember seeing this and thinking, this is brilliant dialogue between these two that could it be that there's something else bothering you today? So these two banditos are talking about their emotions, the emotions of the leader. And so the leader, psychologically, what the leader does, I mean, this happens constantly in therapy, where somebody projects, he's in a bad mood, and he's displacing his feelings onto some irrelevant topic, like whether he gets whether his subordinate understands the use of the word plethora. And by the way, that was a setup. Would you say I have a plethora?
Yeah, of course.
And
it was
it's like,
setup.
Yes, I'd say he's a yes man. Yes, he doesn't say, see, everything about this is funny because he doesn't say, I don't know what a plethora is.
Well, I was particularly impressed with the acting ability of the guy standing on the subordinate because he was just
Like,
trying to kiss ass to his boss.
He was just trying to kiss ass. Then he says, could it be that something else is...
Yeah, I don't have your mental awareness and experience and intellect, but could it be?
Could it be that you're turning 40? That
today was your birthday?
That the woman is not interested in sleeping with you?
Right.
They're like, yeah. So this particular scene is a beautifully written scene of self-deception, but it's kind of like veto. You're blocking veto. It kind of they put it right out there, the psychology of these two.
And do you put it in the category of self-deception? Because I don't get the impression that it's self-deception. I get the impression that it's some sort of emotional discharge or something.
No. It's exactly self-deception. The subordinate is confronting the boss, Bendito, about his own self-deception.
Oh, yeah.
So he's like, you're projecting or displacing. I mean, kind of displacement can kind of be called projection.
Could it be you're taking it out on me?
Yeah, that's like, and he's confronting that the top Bandito is like, not the real issue isn't the real issue. He's confronting the self-deception. That very clear in that scene written, which is why it's so funny.
Yeah. Okay.
That's one reason why it's so funny.
Okay.
The acting is another one, but yeah. So it's a good example. That's a good example of why that's funny, is just because it's uncovering the psychology of the character.
Yeah.
Both of them, really.
Yeah. Kind of uncovering the truth, but uncovering the emotional truth or something.
Yeah. Which, let me go back to this cancel culture on comics. I think we did a podcast on that, but let me take a minute and kind of get out of what we're talking about and talk about how humor is a intervention for self-deception. And when you censor all these comics, you're censoring a healthy feedback loop for the society. Because we were talking about the one of the other movies, Blazing Saddles, and how they dealt with race. And I don't know what year Blazing Saddles is, but they were right out there dealing with racial discrimination, and in a good way. And nowadays, we get this bizarre phenomena of people wanting to censor comics. And in doing that, they're censoring the societal intervention of correcting hypersensitivity, shame. Comedy corrects that stuff. It doesn't fuel it. Yeah. I mean, I guess it could fuel it, but the reason that it's funny is because it's part of a correction process.
Well, I don't know if this applies, but we talk about all the time our memory of the free speech days at LSU. Free Speech Alley at LSU. And it was during our generation at LSU that David Duke was at Free Speech Alley. And some people could say that that's so terrible that y'all let that guy speak at Free Speech Alley. My attitude is that helped expose who David Duke really was. I mean, he got booed and jeered and all that sort of thing. Of course, that didn't bother David Duke. He enjoyed all that stuff. But the point is that it was a way to get the thoughts out.
Well, you make a point that's I think we've punctuated several times, but it's important. It's not for someone else to decide what information is good or bad. It's for the individual to decide how they feel about the information. Mm-hmm. There's only two ways to go. And did I tell you, Al said he disagreed with me. I said I've become a hardliner on censorship and that all censorship is bad. Now, it's kind of stupid to be a hardliner on anything because we pretty much know that decisions are more complex than A, B, choices. But in the area of censorship, you can never qualify censorship because the chances of it being corrupted are very high. Yeah. So you can't accept censorship.
Well, it always comes down to, okay, who gets to be the censor?
Who's the judge?
As soon as there's some centralized authority declaring what's acceptable and what isn't, you've got corruption.
There you've got corruption. And it's also not possible to know what information is going to eventually correct the system and what information is not going to correct the system. And the only person that should decide that is the individual, which is where we libertarians stand.
There you go.
It's up to the individual because no one can totally understand all the nuances of motivation for an individual.
Okay, I want to go to the next one. Monty Python and the Constitutional Peasants.
Old woman! Man, sorry. What knight lives in that castle over there?
I'm 37.
What?
I'm 37, I'm not old.
Well, I can't just call you man.
You could say Dennis.
I didn't know you were called Dennis.
Well, you didn't bother to find out, did you?
I did say sorry about the old woman, but from behind you looked...
What I object to is that you automatically treat me like an inferior.
Well, I am king.
Oh, king, eh? Very nice. And how'd you get that, eh? By exploiting the workers. By hanging on to outdated imperialist dogma which perpetuates the economic and social differences in our society. If there's ever going to be any progress...
Dennis, there's some lovely filth down here. Oh, how'd you do?
How do you do, good lady? I am Arthur, King of the Britons. Whose castle is that?
King of the who?
The Britons.
Who are the Britons?
Well, we all are. We are all Britons. And I am your king.
I didn't know we had a king. I thought we were an autonomous collective.
You're fooling yourself. We're living in a dictatorship. A self-perpetuating autocracy in which the working classes...
Oh, there you go, bringing class into it again.
Well, that's what it's all about. If only people would...
Please, good people. I am in haste. Who lives in that castle?
No one lives there.
Then who is your lord?
We don't have a lord.
What?
I told you, we're an anarcho-syndicalist commune. We take it in turns to act as a sort of executive officer for the week.
Yes.
But all the decisions of that officer have to be ratified at a special bi-weekly meeting.
Yes, I see.
By a simple majority in the case of purely internal affairs.
Be quiet.
But by a 2/3 majority in the case of more...
Be quiet. I order you to be quiet.
Order, who does he think he is?
I am your king.
Well, I didn't vote for you.
You don't vote for kings.
Well, how'd you become king, then?
The Lady of the Lake, her arm clad in the purest shimmering samite, held aloft Excalibur from the bosom of the water, signifying by divine providence that I, Arthur, was to carry Excalibur. That is why I'm your king.
Listen, strange women lying in ponds distributing swords is no basis for a system of government. Supreme executive power derives from a mandate from the masses, not from some farcical aquatic ceremony.
Be quiet!
Oh, but you can't expect to wield supreme executive power just because some watery tart threw a sword at you.
Shut up!
I mean, if I went round saying I was an emperor, just because some moistened bint had lobbed a scimitar at me, they'd put me away.
Shut up! Will you shut up?
Ah, now we see the violence inherent in the system.
Shut up!
Oh, come and see the violence inherent in the system. Help, help, I'm being repressed.
Bloody peasant!
Oh, what a giveaway.
Of course, this is
Brilliant stuff.
beautiful.
Brilliant.
Beautiful.
what does he say? Illusionary tart in the pond gives you a...
He expresses it several
I was
different
like,
ways.
it's so... I mean, I was like, we want to memorize those lines.
Well, it's kind of interesting because these guys are British. They have their British accents, and the British still have royalty. They still have royalty, and these people are ordained by God to be leading, And so it's really pretty funny to have them do such a good job of explaining how silly that whole thing is. And of course, I would argue that, the will of the people, that argument about the will of the people, I don't like that either, because that implies that 51% of the people are going to get to decide what the other 49%
Very good
do.
point. Very good point.
So,
There's a lot of problems, and the Founding Fathers knew there are a lot of problems with democracy, and that's why we're our representative republic. And God, the people that want the changes in the Electoral College, the people that want that do not understand that. What is it? A democracy is when two wolves and a lamb get together and decide what's for dinner.
Yeah.
That is, they don't understand the problems with 51% can elect themselves to cheat and kill and maim the other 49%.
But on this video, they did a great job contrasting.
Love the peasants.
Yeah, contrasting the king and the constitutional peasants, and then the use of force.
Yeah.
Use of force.
Oppressing me.
Did you see him oppressing me? Hey, he's oppressing me. He's oppressing me.
It's just brilliant stuff. Of course, Monty Python tackles it, over and over. The peasants are look to be completely comfortable digging in the dirt. They're happy peasants digging in the dirt, just like middle class. Middle class. I saw Victor Hansen talk about the middle class. He has a clip from his Hillsdale College educational videos where he's talking about middle class, and the Greeks defined the middle class as independent, self-sufficient workers who weren't trying to be poor and weren't trying to be rich. His clip on that's very, very interesting. That they said that, I think he said that the Greeks felt like the state could not function without a middle class. And that middle class has certain characteristics, which I've become very worried about America's middle class.
Yeah.
I see it dissolving and dissolving and dissolving. So the peasants are the middle class. They're farmers. I guess they're digging in the dirt for farming. They're harvesting something or another, but that. And the king says, "I'm your king." It's like, I didn't vote for you. Who made you king? I'm by the will of the Lady of the Lake. Somebody anointed me with a sword. Some tart in a lake anoints you king, and I'm supposed to buy that?
Yeah, I love that one. Okay, and then the last one. This is Blazing Saddles, the Shitload of Dimes. And this is my favorite one of all of them. So go ahead and play this one.
The Peterman Thruway? Now what'll that asshole think of next? Has anybody got a dime?
I don't know, James.
Somebody's got to go back and get a shitload of dimes.
This is your favorite.
This is my favorite. And one reason it's my favorite is because usually when I see something funny, it takes a little digesting for me to be able to see an application in real life. This one is super clear right up front that you got a group of guys who were conforming to authority figure railroad gangs.
This is really good for libertarians.
Yeah.
It's like, what will this asshole think of next?
That's right. And it doesn't even occur to these guys to just ride around the gate. Doesn't even occur to them. That's not an alternative. The only alternative is to go through this gate, and somebody's got to go back and get a shitload of dimes so that we can drive through this gate.
Yeah, the problem solving. First off, the psychology of framing a problem. They're riding through the desert, and then all of a sudden a toll booth opens up out of nowhere. And all of a sudden the problem is framed, anchored. So it's funny because it's so, it's exaggeration of life, is we human beings operate from frames all the time. We think inside the box. We can't help but think inside the box. When you anchor a problem, me buying the hot water heater, I'd anchored the hot water heater wrongly at a certain price. And so it was nothing for me to go up to the more expensive one. It's all about anchoring. And of course, salesmen know this. It's like, you're going to save this much money. So the clip anchors in an extraordinarily funny way, because it's so obvious to the audience that the anchor is right there in the middle of the desert, and these guys cannot go around it. The horse is like, what are you doing?
Well, of course, in today's world, I can only think about, well, we got the truckers, the Canadian truckers.
Yes.
And these truckers almost have the people coming across the border between Canada and the U.S., and it's almost like blazing saddles. Like, you're going to have to come up with a shitload of dimes, or you're going to have to get COVID shot and all that sort of thing. And these truckers said,
I see your point.
I'm not gonna go get a shitload of dimes. I mean, I'm going to drive around. I'm going to drive around this. That's what they're in effect doing. I'm going to drive around your restrictions.
Yeah.
Your governmental restrictions.
Yeah. So the clip is very good at showing governmental restrictions that are ridiculous.
Yes.
And how there's at least some tendency of us all just to follow it mindlessly.
Yes.
And so the clip is about governmental abuse. It's so pertinent to COVID.
Yes, it is.
It's like the lockdown where we're seeing the John Hopkins study saying the lockdowns have been much more devastating on health than they were beneficial, especially to our youngsters.
Yeah.
The whole decision-making with COVID seemed to center around how to protect old people. Well, the old people should not be sacrificed for the young people's well-being. The young people were never at the same risk.
If we had come to this realization about a month after COVID was hit, then they would have been understandable.
Yeah.
But we were a brain-dead society for 2 years before it's finally being accepted that this was a bunch of shit. It's a bunch of shit we put ourselves through here.
Well, you're right about that, and the evidence is becoming more and more clear. But you and I were not off track as far as the battle lines were drawn, and they were being drawn by the political sides. When Trump mentions hydroxychloroquine, and that becomes a taboo word. I mean, we had the emotional, religious, political extremists involved early on. I didn't know it, but they were involved early on. Is anything Trump said? So, and it's still happening.
Don't go too far off hydroxychloroquine, because I want to comment on that.
Okay.
We now know the American Medical Association has stated that hydroxychloroquine was effective. I mean, this was, long after Trump lost the election and everything. They finally disclosed that, it really was effective.
Helped a little bit.
And the point is, not only was this political, people were dying. This political bullshit had a price to it, and the price was people were dying because they didn't have alternative treatments.
Yeah.
Fauci was busy saying, wait a minute, we don't have double-blind studies.
Yeah, we don't have five-year-long double-blind studies.
Yeah, on hydroxychloroquine.
So you can't use that
for this particular purpose. And then they would even go so far as to say hydroxychloroquine is dangerous when it's been used for 40 or 50 years.
Well, let me take a stab at Fauci's stupidity, too, is that the critical thinking He's obviously was impacted by his political stance, and because he had such bias that when you don't have a double-blind study, you go with theory. So hydroxychloroquine's theory was it's a zinc ionophore. That's a decent theory to go with when you don't have time to do a double-blind study and you have people that you have to try to help. That was the most bureaucratic stupidity I've ever seen, is you have people dying and you have him saying that we can't use something because we haven't done a double-blind study. That is a shitload of dimes problem in that guy's mental approach to a problem. Yeah. And this is the guy we have leading the CDC epidemiology department. Jesus. Yeah, so I'm totally in agreement with you on that. I mean, that was serious.
This whole COVID thing, that the medical complex teaming up with government, and the price that was being paid was a bunch of people dying because they don't know what to do. They're busy wearing a mask, thinking that's going to help them.
Mike, they're still oppressing and suppressing early treatment. It is still going on.
Yeah.
The impact of the big pharma, big med, big hospital collusion in healthcare, they're still oppressing early treatment. It's 2 years later, and they're still suppressing
if it was just an inconvenience, I wouldn't object so much, but people are dying over this. And
you'd think that would make a difference, don't you? I mean, you'd think the cost would influence human decision making, but it has not. And that's the warning. I mean, I think we've gone from the funny stuff. The warning here that everybody should get is that those people that are putting that toll gate in the middle of the desert, you need to wake up and figure out how to go around the toll gate.
Yeah. And those people,
and the truckers,
they'll never remove, they won't remove the toll gate just because it makes sense.
No, they're not.
They only remove the toll gate when the population rebels.
Yeah, like the truckers. The truckers say, I'm not stopping at your damn toll gate, and I'm not going back to get a bag of dimes. I'm going around your damn toll gate. And that's good for the truckers.
That's right.
Good for shake it up, baby.
No kidding.
Shake it up.
You're a bunch of heroes. So I'm happy to say that's it for today. I enjoyed looking at old videos that you and I have laughed at over the years and have some sort of social relevance for these things. I really like this.